Sorry about that. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this session of the K-12 Blackboard Innovative Teaching Series. K-12 BITS is a new training initiative designed to help augment your internal training efforts. We're harnessing our community of K-12 Blackboard schools. BITS will share top strategies and pedagogy for both increasing teacher efficiency and improving learning outcomes. K-12 BITS is a free and easy to participate and is available to all teachers, academic leaders, and administrators. My name is Katie Gallagher. I'm the Senior Product Marketing Manager for Blackboard's LMS Solutions and Collaborate, and will serve as the moderator for the K-12 Blackboard Innovative Teaching Series. Thank you today to Misty Cobb, our Blackboard product expert, and Colleen Smith from the K-12 marketing team, who will be helping to answer questions in today's chat. We'll be joining you for the K-12 Blackboard Innovative Teaching Series all spring. Always feel free to email me directly at katie.gallagher@blackboard.com. I'm always open to new ideas for topics for this series, and please let me know if you have any interest in presenting in a future session. Each of the webinars in this series will be recorded. You can search for the Blackboard Innovative Teaching Series playlist on the Blackboard YouTube channel. There's also a K-12 specific BITS playlist at tinyurl.com/BITSK12. You'll receive the recording from this session and the presentation slides in a few days by email. And in addition, you'll be receiving an invitation to participate in an online professional learning community hosted in course sites designed to augment this series and to create an avenue for ongoing collaboration and dialogue. So please be sure to watch for that invitation, accept it, and participate in the new online PLC. All Blackboard Innovative Teaching Series webinars are free and open to all. Look for our K-12 icon to identify the special sessions, but you're certainly welcome to attend any sessions within any BITS track. Our next K-12 BITS session will be Instructional Focus Guides, Curriculum, Pacing, and Resources Support, and we'll focus on how Sarasota County Public Schools is moving to Common Core State Standards with Blackboard. This will be next Monday, May 5th at 3:30 p.m. Today, we're really excited to have Jeff Simmons and Lisa Berry leading us in Blackboard tools that can help meet Common Core State Standards. The Idaho Digital Learning Academy, or IDLA, is one of many K-12 schools making the shift to offering courses that meet the Common Core State Standards. Blackboard has several tools that can be used to incorporate the higher level thinking skills, collaboration opportunities, speaking and listening skills, and the mathematical practices into online courses. This session will review some of those tools, how IDLA provides professional development on those tools, and we'll share examples of how those tools are used in currently offered online courses to meet those Common Core State Standards. Jeff Simmons is the Instructional Manager for IDLA. He's spent 12 years in education, 11 of those with IDLA. He has his master's degree in educational leadership from the University of Idaho and was a 2012 Blackboard Catalyst Award winner for staff development. Lisa Berry is the Curriculum Manager for IDLA. She's been in online education since 2005 and has worked as an adjunct instructor for Boise State University, teaching both face-to-face and blended formats, and as a middle school mathematics and computer applications teacher. She has her BA in mathematics from Linfield College and an MS in instructional and performance technology from Boise State University. She's currently working towards her EDD in educational technology at Boise State as well. So welcome and thank you to both Lisa and Jeff. We're really excited to hear from you today. And with that, let's pass the tools over to Lisa. But I think, Jeff, you're going to kick us off.
Yep, I will kick this off. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, great. Thank you.
Thanks, Katie. Thanks for the introduction. Welcome, everybody. So my name's Jeff Simmons. I'm the Instructional Manager at IDLA. So Lisa and I kind of split the academic team in half. I have the teacher side of the team, and she has the curriculum side of the team. So my team oversees professional development and support and mentoring for our teachers, as well as all of the teachers that we work with. We have, in addition to our part-time teachers, we have 3, and in the summer we'll be adding 2 more, so we'll be up to 5 full-time teachers, and they work directly underneath me as well. So thanks for giving us some time today. I'm going to tell you a little bit about IDLA, and then I'm going to hand the microphone over to Lisa, and then I'll chip in on a couple of things at the end of the presentation. So IDLA is the state virtual school for the state of Idaho. We were established in 2002, and it's our job to provide choice and flexibility and options for kids enrolled in public schools and public charter schools in the state of Idaho. We have participation from 98% of the districts in the state. There's a couple districts that only offer elementary courses, only offer grades K through 6, and we don't currently have a huge K through 6 catalog. So we work with pretty much everybody that we can, and we work cooperatively with those schools. So any student in any public school or charter can enroll in one of our courses. We provide the curriculum, the teacher, the supervision, the technology support, the entire experience, and then we'll report a final letter grade back to the school. The school can then transcribe that course on the student's report card. We have seen over 100,000 enrollments since we first began offering courses in 2002, and this year, I should change that number a little bit, we're just under 21,000 enrollments for the school year. We provide all of the core and elective courses for grades 6 through 12, and we're currently finishing up our hiring process. So when I made this presentation, I said we have over 250 teachers. I think the actual number is going to be about 260, 265 part-time teachers plus the full-time teachers that I already mentioned. So that's a little bit about us as an organization, and I'm going to pass it over to Lisa to talk about Common Core.
Hello, everyone. As has been mentioned, my name is Lisa Berry, and I am the Curriculum Manager. We do develop most of our own courses in-house and working with our teachers to kind of pull that online learning information from them and get it into an online format. Usually we develop or revise 15 to 20 courses a year, so kind of a revolving cycle of course revisions. And our current work is working to incorporate some of the Common Core state standards into our online courses, and that's mostly what we're going to talk about today. So for those of you that don't have much of a background, I was going to spend a couple of minutes just talking about what the Common Core state standards are. They are a group of English language arts and math standards that were developed by a group of education experts, including both teachers and researchers. And that group was brought together by the nation's governors and the chief state school officers. The standards have been adopted by 45 states, so there's a few states out there that have chosen not to adopt. And as that last bullet mentions, the standards have been address what students should know or be able to do at the end of each grade, or when it gets to middle school and high school level, each grade band. And there are a few things that, at least for the state of Idaho, are shifts in the way that and in the approach that we previously taught. And I've outlined a few of those here. In English language arts, it emphasizes that students should read complex texts. And so those are readings that push students academically, require them to build their vocabulary, something that's just not a simple, quick, easy read for them. And as I just hinted, they should use academic language, and that should be done in both reading and in their writing. And we'll talk about different ways to incorporate that into Blackboard as we move through this presentation. In all their reading and writing, or their writing and their speaking, students should provide evidence from the text in backing up what they want to say. And that should be true for literary work, so nonfiction and fiction work. So they should be able to provide evidence from the text to back up whatever it is that they're saying. And dealing with the nonfiction, that's one way for them to build their content knowledge is through nonfiction reading. Some of those complex texts could be incorporated into, say, a science course or a history course, but also in English language arts courses. And the English language arts has 4 big areas with goals, with standards for them: reading, writing, speaking and listening, and language. And the language standards are really centered around the mechanics of the English language. And on the math side, the standards have students focus on deeper conceptual knowledge of fewer topics. So one good example is in the math standards for the 8th grade level. In Idaho, the old standards, there were 66 standards to address over the school year. In the new ones, there are, I believe, 34 standards to address. So about half the number of standards, which means you can get twice as deep in all the different topics. Another emphasis is to link topics and thinking across grades. That helps provide coherence and connections for students. So as an 8th grade teacher, you could say, remember back in 7th grade when you learned about and just provide those connections for students, help them see the big picture. And then the key areas for the math standards, like are listed there, is a conceptual understanding, so the why of how something works, procedural skills and fluency, so still learning, knowing how to multiply a 3-digit number times a 3-digit number, for example. Fluency, still knowing those math facts, and then application of that math in real-life application problems. So the point of this conversation today is how do we help students to meet those goals that I was just talking about within the Blackboard environment. And I have selected just a couple of tools today to focus on. The first one is announcements. So teachers can be creative in the way that they post their announcements. So instead of just putting a little picture and saying, it's time for you to start working on Unit 2, they can front load that content when they're opening it. So provide some instructional, kind of the anticipatory set, put in an online format. It's a great opportunity for the teachers to model the use of that academic vocabulary, incorporate it into the sentences that they're writing. And they can also help provide connections to make that content relevant to the student audience. The work in discussion boards is an ideal opportunity for students to practice some of those key shifts in the English language arts area. Again, here's an opportunity for students to use that academic vocabulary. So the students can write their posts on the discussion board and be given points based on their use of the academic vocabulary. Teachers, in turn, can also reply to those student comments and model the use of that vocabulary, so they get it both ways. One way to help students out is to provide them some writing prompts. So sometimes students are ready to use that vocabulary on their own, but other times they are not quite there yet. So one way to do that is to provide them a writing prompt to kind of kickstart their thought process and really get them going and applying that vocabulary. Another opportunity here is for students to be able to cite the evidence as they're writing that post. So even though it might only be a paragraph, they can refer back to their reading or to a video that they watched and say, I think, whatever it may be, because, and there's that prompt, but that also gives them the opportunity to cite the evidence. And then there are really 3 different types of writing that students can practice within a discussion board. So there's writing to practice, which is really the mechanics of how to write. How do I write complete sentences? How do I make it flow for a paragraph? That kind of thing is practicing the idea of writing. They can write to plan, which is moving just a little bit further so that they can write and prepare to write in the form that they want. So thinking about writing to the correct audience and that kind of thing. And then writing to transfer is really the writing that is used to transfer their knowledge. So being able to think beyond just what the content is that they're writing, and perhaps that's putting the writing in context, like write a letter to your congressman about this particular concept. So they can cite their evidence, they can use that academic vocabulary, and they're applying that writing to a particular audience. Voice tools are another key tool in Blackboard in incorporating and teaching to the Common Core because there is an entire set of standards centered around speaking and listening. And typically in an online course, students don't have the opportunity to speak and to listen. Most of it is communicated back and forth through reading and writing. So the voice tools, both voice boards and the different voice authoring components, are an opportunity for students to practice that speaking and listening. The voice boards can be used very similar to what I was just talking about with discussion boards, but allows them to work with the proper pronunciation of that vocabulary that I've been emphasizing before, but still allows it to be done in an asynchronous environment. So this is another tool that we use a lot in our foreign language classes as well, because students need to hear that proper pronunciation. And then the voice authoring tools can be used, again, for students to have that opportunity for more speaking and listening, but then also teachers can use that tool to model, again, the proper pronunciation, the use of that vocabulary, and then also for providing feedback. And the Rubric tool is something that I just put a little bit about in here, although it's a great tool for setting expectations for all aspects of assignments. So several years ago, a writing assignment was graded only in an English class, and it was centered around not only the content of the paper, but a little bit also on the mechanics and the grammar and the spelling and all those different components. But now that type of teaching is moving across the curriculum with the Common Core, because there are literacy standards saying that students should be doing that academic writing in history classes, social studies classes of all types, and in science classes as well. So a student may be writing a paper in a history class and need to cite their sources, so pulling in that piece, using the proper vocabulary, but then also they should still, just because it's not an English class, doesn't mean that they should forget about the proper structure for writing an essay, how to write complete sentences, how to spell properly. All those things should still be included. And the Rubric tool is a really good way to be able to incorporate all those different pieces into one graded project or assignment. And then also incorporated into the Rubric, but also in the GradeCenter, is feedback. And I listed several different characteristics, I think is probably the best word, to use when providing feedback. So feedback should reference some sort of a learning goal, or good feedback references some sort of a goal. It should be tangible and transparent, should be user-friendly, so not insulting, basically. Actionable, meaning students should be able to act on whatever that feedback may be. It should be consistent and ongoing, and it should be timely. One of the standards that we set for our teachers is that they provide that feedback within 72 hours. So 2 or 3 days ideally is when students have feedback or should receive feedback on their work. And then ideally, teachers should provide feedback that is really can be thought of as feed forward. So students should be able to learn from the feedback and be able to apply it in their future assignments. So instead of a simple good job or good job you wrote a complete sentences throughout the entire paragraph, it should be something that they can really work from and continue to improve on. Even those good students should be able to learn from the feedback and be able to apply it moving forward. And now Jeff is going to talk to us about the use of Collaborate.
Thanks, Lisa. Yeah, so I'm going to talk a little bit about how we use Blackboard Collaborate to further enhance some of our courses, as well as to incorporate some Common Core, and then I'll also share how we use Blackboard Tools to provide professional development on Common Core as well. So Blackboard Collaborate is the synchronous tool we utilize at IDLA, very similar to the tool that we're in now, and we have used it to create a course format that we call hybrid courses. In IDLA lingo, hybrid is a mix of asynchronous and synchronous content. Most of our courses and most of the course content that Lisa's team builds and maintains is asynchronous primarily. So students have all of their instruction, assessment, discussion, and interaction in an asynchronous environment. They have regular due dates throughout that environment, throughout the course, but it's done mostly in the asynchronous environment with some regular office hours that teachers have available using the synchronous tool throughout the week. We felt that there were some courses, especially with Common Core, that could really benefit from an increased amount of synchronous content. So we created a format that we are calling our hybrid courses. So this is a mix of the asynchronous, traditional asynchronous course with some regular synchronous sessions, and in this case, during our pilot this year, it's involved 2 sessions a week, one of which was delivered in Collaborate. And we've used that to provide both instruction as well as an opportunity for student output in a more dynamic environment. So this year we've been piloting with Spanish 1. We've had 2 different schools in Idaho that we've been piloting with using our full-time Spanish teacher who lives in this area. And she's taken the traditional IDLA Spanish 1 course and has built in some opportunities for her to provide some direct instruction to the students, as well as some opportunities for them to provide output in the synchronous format. So, and then next year, we will be looking at adding Spanish 2, Algebra 1, Speech, and Dual Credit Speech. And these courses were picked on purpose. We were looking for courses where we felt that additional synchronous content would really enhance the curriculum and make it a better experience for students. And the Common Core connection here is the speaking and listening component. So we wanted to ensure that we were doing a good job of meeting our speaking and listening standards. And with courses like speech or foreign language, it's very important that students have an opportunity to hear the language, as well as an opportunity for the teacher to assess the student speaking the language. So those were an easy target for us. And then we felt with math and maybe even some of our higher level science courses that there would be also a need for more direct instruction from the teacher, as well as some direct feedback from the students. So that's why we targeted the courses that we did. Some examples of things that our teacher has done throughout the year. In the live environment, obviously she's provided live instruction. The Collaborate tool gives us an opportunity for students to work in groups, so we can bring them in, put them in breakout rooms, and have them complete small group activities, and then come back to the main group and share back. She's been able to provide some supplemental instruction, so there's times where she's been able to just do a one-on-one session with a student if needed, or clarify some content that the students were not doing well with. And then it's like I said, it's also been an opportunity for students to present and provide some oral assessment rather than the traditional assessment that happens in the asynchronous environment. Another way that we use Collaborate as an organization, which maybe isn't a direct Common Core connection, but I think has some value, is we've been able to use Collaborate to create an e-tutoring solution. So we call this our Academic Help Center. All of our teachers are required to host office hours throughout the week, and they have the opportunity to host their office hours in what we call the Academic Help Center. So we've established general Collaborate rooms for each content area. So there's one for English, one for social studies, one for math, etc. And the teachers can staff that room throughout the day, and we make a link for that room available in the Blackboard course that the student's taking, and we also embed a Google Calendar that lists when teachers will be available and what subjects they can work with. So, for example, foreign languages, most of our foreign languages are Spanish, but we also have French, German, and Mandarin. So the Spanish teacher can't help tutor on the Mandarin, but on the calendar we can indicate when the Mandarin teachers are available. So we have this available as a standby resource during the daytime hours, and it's staffed by our teachers. All of our teachers are in-state certified teachers that meet highly qualifying criteria. And so that's a way that we've been able to kind of extend the classroom a little bit, help provide some support for our students as well as our teachers. Another issue we run into with our organization is we know that we have students that are working during the day and teachers that are also working during the day face-to-face, but not necessarily getting to their IDLA work until the evening. So this has been a way for us to try to help provide a solution for those students who have an immediate need that can't be answered within a couple of hours when teachers get home. An extension of this is a pilot that we're working with on our technology team. We're working to build a tool where students could actually go online, submit a form, and say, hey, I need help, and then that would broadcast a message to any teachers that are available as a text message, and then students in whichever teacher responds to the text first, that student and that teacher would meet up in the Collaborate room for that subject area, and the student could then receive live tutoring. So that's an add-on that we're building on our side that we've been working with a couple of teachers on, and we're looking to slowly roll that out as a better solution, because right now the solution requires teachers to be sitting at their computer at a designated time, and if there's no students that need help at that time, they're just sitting there. So this will be a little better solution for our teachers and for our students as well, but it'll still utilize the Collaborate platform. And then the other thing I want to talk about was our professional development program. So this is a graphic that we use to try to explain the different modes of professional development that we offer to all of our teachers and principals in IDLA. So going from left to right, we have different modes of professional development, from something that's ongoing to annual, and then something that's a low amount of facilitation to a high amount of facilitation. And Blackboard helps us meet the four that are in the middle. Actually, you can count the blue one with the knowledge base. We do link out to some Blackboard support articles for our knowledge base. That's a standby resource of tutorials, print-offs, things that teachers can use just for basic tasks that they do all the time, but maybe need a refresher on how to do some of those things. The modular and the asynchronous PD, that's content that we deliver, that we either build or license and offer to each of our teachers and principals. They're required to take a course every 15 months. So we offer that throughout the year, fall, spring, and summer. And those are on anything from Common Core to IDLA policy and procedures to using Blackboard as an instructor, social networking. We try to hit all of the different areas that an online teacher would need in order to be successful. And then the blended and hybrid and synchronous, obviously the synchronous we can use Blackboard Collaborate, and we have a monthly webinar series we call our Just-in-Time series, and that's just-in-time professional development. So it's whatever topic is of the greatest need that month. For example, we are upgrading our Blackboard system in May, so our May Just-in-Time will revolve around the upgrade, and it will be a chance for us to demonstrate some of the new features that teachers will have access to, and give us a chance to front load some of that training before the upgrade hits so that we don't have to support it all once the upgrade happens. And in the blended and the hybrid, we do have a blended program in our state, and we can use Blackboard to support some of the professional development for that as well. The next layer of our professional development program, in addition to what I had on the previous graphic, is the addition of a mentor-teacher role. So currently we have a lead teacher in each content area. They're kind of our department head, and they're the jack of all trades. They help with content. On Lisa's team, they do some content reviews. They're a subject matter expert. They can look at a textbook and help make decisions on that side of things. They're also our mentor for teachers who may be struggling or need help using Blackboard or whatever. And that's been a lot of work for some of our larger content areas. So Lisa and I decided to split this role into two positions. So Lisa's team will continue to work with the content side of things and the content reviews, curriculum maintenance, and those pieces. My team will establish a mentor teacher in each content area, and that'll be the go-to person for each teacher in that content area. So my science mentor teacher will be the first line of defense, I guess, for our science teachers. That'll be somebody that they can contact who does what they do and can help mentor them or support them, whether they're brand new or they're a veteran and just need help with some ideas on something. We can certainly continue to use some of the Blackboard tools to support this as well. I think Lisa and I are going to meet with this whole group using Blackboard Collaborate later this month. And we're also brainstorming right now the best way to use this group to host some PLCs to provide ongoing professional development for our teachers in each content area, and certainly Blackboard will be, I'm sure, part of the equation as well, because that gives us an asynchronous or asynchronous environment in which we can provide some additional support for our teachers. So that's those are the different pieces that I had as far as some different ways in which we use Blackboard tools to support Common Core from the instructional side. And I'm sure Lisa and I are willing to answer any questions that the group may have at this point.
This has been great, Jeff and Lisa. This is Katie Gallagher again. So I wanted to be sure to direct attendees to type questions into the chat so that we can address any questions you might have now. I'll start it off with a question, and I may have missed it if you said this, but you talked about using Collaborate for live sessions. Jeff, do your teachers ever record the live sessions and publish those sessions within the courses? And could you talk a little bit about that?
I can expand on that a little bit. So the teachers do have access to Collaborate, and in addition to the office hours and the e-tutoring program that I spoke to, they'll also use Collaborate for quiz reviews, test reviews, final exam, study sessions. They'll bring in guest speakers. They'll host a special lecture on the content of the course. So they'll use it for a variety of reasons, and obviously within each session you have the ability to archive. We will have some teachers who will archive that content and make it available for future courses. Sometimes if we have a really good guest speaker, we can archive that and then put it into the master course for each course that we offer as an additional resource for future students. We've used the Collaborate tool to provide, in the fall, we brought in a representative from one of the local community colleges, and she was able to share with any student who wanted to attend about some of the different programs they have at the college and how you would register. And I think the following week was free application week, so you could register for free if you wanted to apply to go to college. So we use Collaborate in as many ways as we can. We even used it, we're just finishing our part-time teacher hiring for the spring. We use Collaborate for our teacher interviews. We have a room we call our interview room, and as the candidates come into the room, we have a representative from our operations team there to greet them and run them through the setup wizard, and then we can pull them into private breakout rooms to conduct the interview and keep everything confidential. So we use Collaborate for for a variety of things. It's a multi-purpose solution for us.
How interesting is it that you even conduct teacher interviews via Collaborate? That's really enlightening. So I had a question come in through IM. What about the student perspective? Have you gotten feedback from the students that participate in your program? Do they enjoy all the different options for being able to connect with tutors and instructors, and are they successful with that?
We do have an end-of-course survey at the end of each course that we ask students to complete. And we ask them to do a variety of things, from answering questions about their teacher to the ease of registration to ranking the course and how well they thought the course was. And we try to get some data on that about the e-tutoring program. We also pull data from the back end on the e-tutoring program. And usage-wise, it varies between the content areas. I think our math content area in the fall was actually up close to 20% participation, which is very good for an e-tutoring program. Most of the other content areas are down closer to 10, or, you know, some courses like keyboarding or PE, there's not really a huge demand for e-tutoring in those content areas, so that makes sense just based upon the content. But the one piece of data that I like to look at is most of the students who go to the Academic Help Center once for e-tutoring end up going back again. So I believe it's 80% of the students that show up once are repeat customers. So they come and they find value, and they see how that tool can help them, and they end up coming back at least one more time during the rest of the semester.
That's great. That's great. What about parents? Are those options just available for students? What if a parent is helping their child and they need some guidance? Do they use the same types of avenues to connect?
I think most of our parent communication with our teachers is over the phone or through email. But the parents do have access to the observer role in Blackboard, so they can get in and experience the course as their student would and see course content. They could find their teacher's contact information in there. So they do have access to the Blackboard course that way. I don't know that we have a lot of parents going to a help session and Collaborate, but we will occasionally offer sessions that are more appropriate for parents and send them an invite to come to a session, especially if it's something like a guest speaker where there's content that they might find valuable.
Great.
And to piggyback on that a little bit, some of our teachers do use Collaborate to hold like a back-to-school night, or they try and do parent-teacher conferences using Collaborate as well.
Oh, great. Now, you know, really integrating the Blackboard tools and making changes for Common Core, has that spilled over into, and I'm not sure if you offer this, do you offer any GED programs or adult learning programs as well? And, you know, has Common Core spilled over there too?
We don't offer anything beyond just supplemental courses for the regular public schools, so we don't have any GED students. So I can't really speak to that knowledgeably.
To add on to that, I mean, I think you could. I think you could very easily use the same model to work with adults, and I think with adults they would actually find the synchronous environment a little more appealing than maybe the kids do. For kids, it's kind of weird to call your teacher or email your teacher or meet with your teacher in a chat room, but I think for adults they might find that a valuable experience. I know with the professional development courses that we offer, I think one of the most valuable pieces of that is the social learning aspect. I think adults like to have time to discuss with somebody else who has the same needs or is in the same position as they are.
Great. Well, and that question was a little bit out of the blue. I wasn't sure, you know, the full realm of students that you served across the state. so I wasn't sure if you were working with that group. What about participants in the session today? What questions do you have? Please post them in the chat.
I guess while we're getting questions from the group, one other thing that that we've been able to do using Collaborate specifically is with professional development. I sit on a group that tries to maximize capacity by offering some shared professional development with other state virtual schools. So there's a group of state virtual schools that tries to work together. I'm on the PD committee. Lisa is on the curriculum and content committee, and we've used Collaborate to meet together. We have a meeting every other week where we try to do some planning to offer content over the summer. That's beneficial to all organizations. In the past, we've actually hosted a virtual conference together using Collaborate as our platform for that, and we had a full schedule. We had keynote speakers, we had breakout sessions, all made available via Blackboard Collaborate. This year, we're looking to offer content that's a little more asynchronous and a little more flexible, and we're actually looking at course sites as our option for that as well. So interesting to see, Katie, that you're looking towards course sites also. But we will be using course sites to host that content, and we'll actually be kicking off each workshop this summer with a 1-hour Collaborate session. So that's another way in which we've been able to do that and bring in more value and more content for our teachers than we would be able to provide on our own.
That's a great idea. What are all the state virtual schools that you're collaborating with in this shared professional development? Can I ask, are all the states Common Core states or not? And I guess another follow-up question I have, and this might be aimed more at Lisa with curriculum, but are you aligning content within your courses to the Common Core state standards, reporting against it?
Yeah, I can answer both of those. So the first comment about all the different state virtual schools, some of those states have not adopted the Common Core, but a lot of the standards are pretty common across the board. You know, like in math, you have to learn the quadratic formula at some point. So with the Common Core standards, that's usually in the first year of high school math. So that's still being introduced there. If those states that are not adopting Common Core still want to use some of the content we create, they may offer it in a different course, but it's still, really it's the same content still being taught.
Gotcha.
And then your other question about the content addressing the Common Core or meeting those standards, we are definitely doing that. So we have, over the past year and a half, rewritten all of our English classes and all of our math classes so that they're aligned to the new standards. And then we are also working on our social studies courses to incorporate some more reading and more writing into those courses so that it does meet those literacy standards. And the same is true for science.
Great. Can you speak a little to, I mean, in terms of curriculum design, are you using any of the content alignment reports to, you know, validate that you have resources aligned to each of the desired standards, or identify areas where you still need to build? And then, you know, conversely, are you using the performance reporting, you know, class and individual reporting against standards?
We have not gone into that yet. I know that that's a feature that's out there, but we have not really gone into that area yet within the LMS. So when we develop our courses, a lot of the upfront work is really done using Google Documents to collaborate within our development team. And we start with basically a table kind of outlining at a high level what units we want to cover, or what big ideas we want to cover, and those turn into units. and then break those down into kind of smaller topics, which end up being the individual lessons. And then on that spreadsheet, we across the top, we list each of the standards, and our developers and our subject matter experts kind of work together and just create a chart and put little X's on each row and each column so that we can see at a glance which lessons are addressing which standards. It also helps us see any holes before we even start putting the course into Blackboard.
Great. All right, well, let's see. Colleen, could you pass it back to me? All right. So it's been really informative. Before I go to my closing remarks, Colleen, would you speak a bit to Blackboard World? Lisa and Jeff, this has been very informative. We really appreciate you taking time out to share what you're doing in Idaho with both Blackboard Learn and Blackboard Collaborate, especially with so many schools, feeling that tension as they're, trying to make that transition to Common Core standards. So we greatly appreciate your expertise and experience today.
Yeah, so it's, for those of you guys who have participated in maybe multiple sessions of BITS, or if this is your first session that you're attending, we're excited to share that BB World is really, we're looking to provide a unique experience for K-12 attendees this year. Our sessions, workshops, and keynotes have been designed specifically for K-12 participants and continue to focus on new strategies and pedagogy that will address critical issues in K-12 today. So, similar to the content today, aligning teaching and learning practices to common standards like the Common Core, and how to adopt new models of digital learning in your classrooms, BYOD and one-to-one professional development solutions. So if you like what you've seen here, I would definitely encourage you to take a look at bbworld.com, and hopefully we'll see you this summer.
Great, thank you so much, Colleen. All right, so thank you so much for participating in today's session of the Blackboard K-12 Innovative Teaching Series. We're always open to new ideas for topics and presenters, so please let us know if you have interest in presenting a future session. You will be receiving a recording and presentation slides in a couple of days following this webinar, and you'll receive the invitation in course sites. I'm so glad, Jeff, to hear that you guys will be using the same platform for some of the shared PD that you'll be doing. So be sure to accept the invitation that comes from course sites and participate in that new online PLC. And please encourage and bring your colleagues to join us for our next BIT session next Monday with Sarasota County Schools, instructional focus guides, curriculum pacing, and resources support. It also focuses on Sarasota's transition to Common Core state standards as well. So again, thank you very much, Lisa and Jeff. What a great session.
Thank you.